The right thing should be done for the interest of the people. Democracy must be protected. And I want to say here, those people who perpetrated this particular heinous crime against the Nigerian people did not think of the consequence of their action, that they will put this country in danger or they will put the democracy in danger. With all due respect to our DSS, which we have enormous respect for, but there seems to be a conspiracy against the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We said it earlier on that these people who are hell-bent in destroying our democracy in terms of manipulating the system have already orchestrated their plan pre-election, during an election, and after the election. They've done what they wanted to do by intimidating the Labour Party, maiming and killing pre-election. During election, they ensured that they took the ballot papers, they deny us of the actual result. Now, post-election, you can go to court. Of course, they will orchestrate in conspiracy against the people.
So are there really an eclectic group of politicians who are trying to use violent protests to destroy Nigeria's democratic structures, prevent the inauguration from taking place in May, and essentially topple the state? Or has the DSS become, as some in the opposition have suggested, irradiated by propaganda? In other words, is it all bluff and bluster, or does it all sound credible and believable in a country taught with nerves? Are the Nigerian people buying it?
At some point on this journey, not so long, in no distant time, we will know what we have done to ourselves as a nation by electing, even allowing someone like Bola Ahmed Tinubu to get to the political space and decide to run for the office of president, because it's going to get messier. Trust me. We will know. No, some of us have said it, and then you have looked at the eyes of partisanship to say, oh, we are just hip-hop apologists, we are Satanists, you are agitators, we don't know what we are saying, you guys have been the political terrain. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a canker that this nation will regret in no distant time. Go and mark it. I've said it. The highest that will happen is that you call for my arrest. That's the highest. But the fact must be laid to bear. INEC suddenly became part of the growth of 2007, 2011, 2015. Became watery, and then we suspected in 2019. But in 2023, we are seeing that INEC has now become a shadow of itself. Most embarrassing election in the history of this country, because Bola Ahmed Tinubu got on board or got to the scene. DSS, the Department of State Security, has again now begin to act like a toothless bulldog, and you are wondering, how did DSS get to this point? A very respected institution like DSS. The DSS is not a rabble-rouser organization. You don't see them begin to perturb and converse in things that are not detailed. The DSS that we know before now will not be doing public propaganda and creating insinuations that without unfounding details. The DSS will never do that. Will never. You will never see the DSS getting involved with political insinuations. Clean and clear. When the DSS call for you, they invite you to come and clear yourself based on certain allegations. Suddenly, Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his APC gang has got to the feed, has got on board. We are seeing DSS now making political statements, even saying that they have unfounded allegations. No, sir, no. With all due respect, organization like DSS should not be getting involved with that kind of situation. Why? Why would the DSS do that? Why? So you mean that nobody has been arrested? There are Nigerians who are planning to create anarchy in the system and bring up an unconstitutional interim government. The DSS is only making a public statement. There are no names attached. That is the point of allowing people like Bola Ahmed Tinubu get to the public space. That's the point. And you can see it from all indications. God forbid. God forbid. See, I've said it before. As a Nigerian who is educated and enlightened, I will not support anything that is unconstitutional. That's why I will not go on the street to protest for any reason. I won't. And I will not support any ideology that is not in line with our constitution. Thank God for the principle of the Labour Party that has chosen to go to court as the constitution demands. And that's what all of us are waiting for. When you see this drama happening, they are just created by some men who want to hold on to power at all costs. We are not creating situations. I call it lies. They are lies. If there are people that are planetary government, let them call their name and arrest them. Invite them. Publish their names. Why are we doing this? Why have we turned this country to a joke? Everybody can just imagine. Sometimes you fold your hands and you look at this nation and say, how do we get here as a nation? It's embarrassing. But arrest! What the APC has done to this country, God, it will take. See, I said it before the election. Sometimes I really wish that Peter Obi wasn't contesting. Let's see. It will take years to clean up the mess that the APC is constituting currently in our political scenes. Some of you are just there. Your affiliations with the party, either by tribe, by religion, by party, or by a certain element who are close to the would-be president-elect, or the would-be president, as you want to call it, right? Is what is giving you joy to see. You can't wait to have your share of the national cake. But what is going to happen eventually? It is someone who is happy about the immediate and careless about the ultimate. Ultimately, we will regret this. We know Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a businessman. He brings business into everything he does. He's going to get messy into our situation. All the progress that organizations, agencies, and parasitas of government has achieved in several years will become shambolic, will become messed. I'm telling you, because a man like he was going to settle all this with his voice. You already heard that the nomination. It's not me that said it. Amici, a 7-member people at that point. And then you're asking yourself, when is DSS going to begin to charge MC Oluomo? When is he going to be invited? When DSS is going to arrest MC Oluomo for publicly inciting violence, electoral violence, and crimes against tribes, against races? He publicly said it, and that he came on national TV with a small video and said that it was a joke. As I talked to him, the DSS has not invited him to say, come and explain that to us, or issue an apology. You left it. But I hear say, so DSS is now acting like a member, like a faction of the APC. Say they will do everything to defend the constitution and work against anybody who wants to bring terror in government. Excuse me. Some things we don't big for some nonsense for this country now. Share this video.
Yes, I've read the statement, which of course is less than 48 hours old. Haven't broken down the statement, I think it's quite serious. There is a lot that the DSS is saying, but there's more than what the DSS is not saying. So they're not saying more than, and they're saying less, but they're keeping more. So breaking down that statement, so if you look at the triangle, which we call the terror triangle, or what they call the crime triangle, you realize that in that particular statement, the DSS has identified already, as it says in the statement, the individuals behind this plan. So there's a complete picture. It's identified the individuals. It has identified the motivation, which is, of course, to install a so-called interim government. It has also identified the methods that these individuals are planning to use. The only thing that the DSS did not identify is the timing. It's talked about, some of the targets, people that the courts, should be worried, should be aware of.
But it didn't identify the individuals either.
Well, it says we have identified, so which means that they have identified.
But they don't want to reveal.
They don't want to reveal. That's why I say, it has said less than what it knows.
Right.
So the DSS has more information than what it has put out. Now, because of that, it shows that there is a complete plot, to which the DSS has the complete information. Now, the question is, why release this to the public? Why not pass this on? The DSS is one of 10 main security agencies. Of course, you have law enforcement agencies, which, in addition to that, and its role is to gather intelligence, and share the intelligence with who? With the Nigerian police force. So the question is, why did the DSS not give this information to the Nigerian police force, bearing in mind that the individuals have been identified as per the statement, their motivations, their tactics that they're going to use is all been identified. So the question is, why is the DSS just sending a warning to a plot that is complete? And why have they not channeled that information directly to the Nigerian police force, giving them the details so the police force can be able to arrest these individuals? So the second point, Charles, is the fact that the DSS talks about an unconstitutional or an illegal act. What DSS is saying essentially is that there is possibility that a coup is being planned. Because if you look at the Nigerian constitution, to which I have looked, there is no room for an interim government. Perhaps you could talk about an extension of the presidency if the elections had not taken place for 6 months. But again, that would be if the country is at war, and also if the National Assembly were to may allow for an extension of 6 months. But that period has passed because the elections has taken place. So what essentially the DSS is saying is that there's possibility of a coup, happening. And if that reminds us of the 1993, 12 June scenario, whereby you had, General Babangida, installing Shonekun as the interim government, and then him being taken out by General Abacha later on. Then that was the only time in the history of Nigeria where you had some sort of an interim government. But from the 1999 onwards, there is no constitutional demand for that. This is a very serious statement. The DSS has more than it is saying.
Very, very interesting and an excellent analysis there from you, I have to say. But does the fact that the DSS did not name anyone specifically contribute to the confusion and support the suspicion that this is all part of a big propaganda effort on the part of the DSS?
It does, and secondly, I don't think the DSS has it is not in the place of the DSS to name someone. I think, first of all, that statement which the DSS put out should have been put out by the Nigerian police. But more so, I think, what they should have done, instead of coming to tell people what is going on, they should have been telling people what has been done by the Nigerian police force, not by the DSS, because the DSS is an agency, again, as I mentioned earlier on, it is tasked to gather intelligence, within the national territory, because you have the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, which does external, intelligence gathering. So I think it has set more confusion than it has, giving some more clarification, because the question is, why would the DSS put out such a statement? Now you have the incumbent is the same party that won, that has been made the president-elect. And if the DSS is saying that there is a plan ongoing for an interim government, essentially what he's saying is that the same party that won would be the same one that is planning for an interim government. So it's a bit of, where is this coming from? So perhaps, is he saying that there is a division within political parties? But why is the DSS interested in that? Why is the DSS also, again, as I mentioned earlier on, giving this information to the public? Because, of course, this is not, a situation where you would say the public can be able to forestall it. Because you're talking about, an interim government. That only comes from the government in place. If you're talking about a terrorist attack or a criminal attack, then you can give an information to the public to be aware. See something, say something. But you're talking about an interim government being set up. So why are you giving this information to the public, knowing fully well that the general public has little to do about it? Except, the DSS is indirectly saying to the public, there is a way that you can use to truncate the current process, indirectly.
Very interesting. Nigerians, of course, have the constitutional right to protest peacefully and in an orderly manner, but we know that the security services and governments of the day have, in the past, allegedly inserted agents provocateurs into these peaceful gatherings to turn them into disruptive demonstrations and to use that to justify the brutal intervention of the security forces to put them down. What are your thoughts and possible concerns about that?
I think it's huge, Charles. Revolutions are not caused mainly by the revolutionaries, but by the stupidity of government and security forces. And if this kind of situation is being played out in this manner, then there is a possibility, again, as I said, that indirectly, it's almost like exposing some loopholes in which a particular outcome could be possible. But again, constitutionally, how is that going to happen? What are the possibilities that you have an interim government at this point in time? Knowing fully well, as you rightly said, that people have the right to protest in every country, in every constitution, because if you stop people from protesting, what you're saying indirectly is that you're sending people to be violent. You do not want them to express themselves. Protest alone, it's insufficient. People have to go through the court systems. The government of the day has to do something. Now, the current situation is in such a way that the courts are already dealing with, some of the petitions, by the opposition. So we do not see a reason why, there should be, a process where you want to stop people from protesting, because what you're doing indirectly is you're putting more, flames into, you're just increasing the flames, of what is already existing, which is not helpful in the current circumstances.
Absolutely. But of course, while we raise questions, legitimate questions about the DSS, let us also remember that Nigerian politicians have a way of smarting from defeat and often go as far as possible for their own selfish political interests. So it would not necessarily come as a surprise if it emerged that some of them may well be plotting to upset the democratic apple cart.
No, it's happened before. As I mentioned, in 1993, you had, General Abacha saying it's my turn. when Babangida appointed Shonekon as the interim leader. Then he only ruled for less than 90 days, and so there is that fear. But we are now in a different dispensation, and obviously there has always been people contesting for against whoever wins the presidential election since 1999. There's never been a time when there hasn't been protest, when people haven't gone to court to challenge the elections. But I think it's more important that security services play a very effective role rather than play any other role. I'm not saying the DSS is playing a much unneeded role, but I'm saying that they are not saying much. Perhaps the DSS is just warning that maybe there is something more than meets the eye. Perhaps they're saying that there is a coup d'etat which has been planned, and that is the only circumstances under which an interim government can take place, which means if you have a coup d'etat, then the government of the day will not have legitimacy, and whoever became the president-elect will not be installed on May the 29th. It is only under those circumstances that you can have an interim government. Perhaps that's what they're saying, but who knows?
From a security point of view, how would you describe the mood in Nigeria at the moment following the elections? Tense, perhaps?
Yes, I think it is tense, but it is less tense than was expected, and the sole reason,
sort of contained tension.
Contains tension because there has been this option of going to court, and people still believe that the courts are neutral and they have the ability to resolve any differences that occurred as a result of the election malpractices. So a lot of people are looking forward to see what happens, and this is why it's very delicate at this point in time to bring up other ideas which will make the citizens believe that perhaps the only available option, which is going to the judiciary, is no longer available in their hands. So while the tension is still there, there is still a lot of hope that justice will be given by the judicial system. And I don't think there's any reason why people should doubt that. Although there are precedents where the judicial system has not done its best, but we only have to look at progress and see if that is what is going to happen. But this report by the DSS is not doing any favors.
So what's the best way for the security services to handle all this going forward? What are your professional recommendations?
I think one of the biggest gaps that I've seen as per this report is the fact that there is some level of interagency disjoint. The DSS is working in silos. This should have gone through the Nigerian police force and other sister agencies. They should have taken steps rather than sending out warnings. I think there is a lot to do when it comes to agencies trying to play God for whatever reason, whether they want to demonstrate to the public that they are the only ones who can get the best information, or perhaps to look for favors. Who knows? But from a security perspective, there is that level of interagency operability which seems not to exist at this point in time. And I think what the Nigerian security agencies need to go through this period is collaboration and cooperation.